This is Newslive on Viewer Television. I am Jennifer Okolo. The headlines. Kidnapped lecturers of University of Abuja and some of the family members regains freedom. The Federal High Court in Abuja bars the federal government from deducting $418 million from bank accounts of the 36 states of the Federation. Plus, European Commission warns of serious consequences for United Kingdom in Northern Ireland Brexit trade row. The House of Representatives has reiterated its commitment to support the Nigerian Army to achieve their goals, insisting that funds provided be judiciously utilized in order to earn the trust of Nigerians as well as to boost the morale of officers in the Army. Chairman House Committee on Army Abdulrazak Namdeh stated this on Thursday during the 2021 budget performance and 2022 budget proposal of the Nigerian Army at the National Assembly. The report.
Over the years, the atrocities and motivation of banditry in the country have assumed insurgent-type criminality. In spite of government efforts, the security situation in Nigeria has deteriorated. The recent abductions of lecturers in University of Abuja, the nation's capital, amongst others, are more examples of the deplorable state of security in the country. The committee is worried and wants the Nigerian government and doctrine program to beef up its program in area of training and retraining of its officers to combating banditry and terrorism in the country.
Our visit gave us more confidence that TRADOC is doing exactly what it was established to do. This is because our visit coincided with an ongoing training which we decided to observe. And what we saw actually shows that TRADOC is doing its own doctrine and then training officers and men in the Nigerian Army.
With the current security crisis bedeviling the country, the committee urged TRADOC not to relent in protecting the territorial integrity of the country.
We are worried that with the spread of banditry across the country, that is why we feel that attention should be paid to banditry and also terrorism. That was also why the National Assembly decided to pass a resolution urging the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, to designate bandits as terrorists so that the security forces can have more power to deal with the situation.
Earlier, the Director, Nigerian Army Training and Doctrine, Major General Stevenson Olabanji, while enumerating the activities of TRADOC, hinted at the Committee of a Special Forces Training, all geared towards beefing up the personal strength of the Nigerian Army.
The essence of this Special Forces training is to further give these personnel some specialized training in the aspect of watermanship, deep diver, airborne, and living off the land capabilities. Other aspects of this training will be in the areas of target acquisition, tracker, assailing and repelling, counter-terrorism, and counter-insurgency training, amongst others. These are all geared towards beefing up the personnel strength of the Nigerian Army and further increase our fighting capabilities in order to bring a lasting solution to the insecurity challenge in our country.
The committee eventually went on a closed-door session to consider details of the budget.
Well, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Yusuf Yahaya, says the Nigerian Army needs more funds to acquire military hardware, arms and ammunition and to provide welfare for its personnel. He said this while presenting the Nigerian Army's 2021 budget performance and the 2022 budget proposal before the House Committee on Army in Abuja, where he declared that 2021 budget performance as fairly average with 78%, 73% and 100% performance, while expecting improvement in the 2022 budget proposal. Lieutenant General Yahaya said an increase in the budget reallocation and its removal from the envelope system of release of funds together with timely releases in the first quarter will assist the Army to achieve his dream of a disciplined and well-trained Army ready to serve the country. On his part, Chairman House Committee on Army, Honorable Abdulrazak Namdeh, assured the Chief of Army Staff of the committee's readiness to push for increased funding for improvement of the welfare of its personnel to boost their morale in discharging their national assignments.
While the 100% release of capital funds is commendable, It should, however, be noted that most of the hardware requirements of Nigerian Army are priced in United States dollars and procured from original equipment manufacturers outside Nigeria. Hence, it takes quite some time from when equipment are ordered to the time they are supplied and inducted into operation. Thus, I can conveniently state that the 2021 budget performance is fairly above average. So now I look to year 2022 Nigerian Army budget proposal. So in preparing for year 2022 budget, Nigerian Army proposed the sum of 710 billion only. However, the budget ceiling for the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning reduced it to a total sum of 579 billion only. This reduction would impede the capacity and tempo of Nigerian Army in carrying out its constitutional duties, particularly the ongoing war against Boko Haram terrorists and other criminalities across the country.
We must tell you the truth, that the morale of your men in respect to accommodation is low. A lot needs to be done in that area. This is because your men can only give you their best if they are psychologically stable or are well accommodated. It is the wish of this committee to also draw the attention of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, to the plight of our officers and men living in dilapidated structures scattered across 138 barracks in the country. Proposing 28 billion as capital for the Army in 2022 budget is very inadequate. Even if the entire money is to be used for rehabilitation of barracks alone, it will still be very inadequate. It is our hope that Armed Forces Support Fund bill, currently awaiting concurrence at the Senate, when passed and assented to by the President, will help tackle some of these major challenges.
Meanwhile, the chairman of House Committee on Army, Honorable Abdulrazak Namdez, has harped on the need for the Nigerian Army to intensify more efforts in funding of capital projects. Honorable Namdez stated this immediately after the closed-door meeting the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tstv Channel. He said funding more capital components of the Nigerian Army budget will go a long way in eliminating the challenges faced by its officers and men and to run its operations smoothly.
That it is accepted. For instance, last year, the capital is 29 billion. Today, this year, 2022, it is 28 billion. So instead of moving up, it's coming down. And this budget is about capital. You use capital to buy equipment. You use capital to prosecute the war. You use capital to also renovate barracks. So if all these things you have, even the entire 28 billion you have to use to even renovate the 138 barracks in this country, it will not even take 1/4 of it. So actually the money is very small. There is need for us to sit down to see how we can help Army move forward. Because if you give somebody a small amount, he will tell you that it is because he didn't give him enough money. And if wholly responsible, he has a way of dodging the question. Give him enough. Agreed. We have done so much in supplementary budget. But again, the capital component of it for a whole 2022 is 28 billion. You and self know that this thing cannot continue. We can't do anything much with the money.
Well, the Director Secretary of the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board, Aisha Rufai, says her agency could not promote nor recruit staff in 2020 due to the outbreak of COVID-19. As such, it has merged its 2022 budget with the 2020 was merged with 2021 exercise. She said the agency's 2022 budget performance was 30.21%, while the 2021 budget performance is 80%. Rufai says recruitment for the two services were the Nigerian Immigration Service and the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps were given waiver, which was where the agency had problem. She said after the budget, they discovered that the promotion had recruitment have been removed as capital projects from the Ministry of Finance. As such, the agency was left with 171 million naira budget, and it cannot put that as capital but under recurrent. She says now that the agency has been given a new mandate that extends its function to include protecting facilities, which includes protection of jails to avoid jailbreaks and safe schools. She is hopeful that recruitment will be expanded to 1 to 10,000 again. Honorable Nasir Darrell, Chairman, House Committee on Interior of the committee, promised to assist the agency to get more funds and recruit more personnel, as he advised the agency to write formally to the committee, highlighted these areas.
Our budget from the Ministry of Finance, we discovered that our promotion and recruitment has been removed as capital projects. So we are left with only 171 million as our budget, in our budget, that we cannot put that as capital, under capital subject. It has to be under recurrent. That is a problem that will have to be solved, because as it is, we cannot conduct any recruitment. We were advised to change the subject into human capital development / audit, consultancy for human capital development / audit. So I don't know, sir, we'll need assistance with that.
We have a duty to ensure that the country receives value for every penny or kobo appropriated, especially in this critical era of budgetary fiscal deficit. The mandate of the Civil Defense, Correctional, Fire and Immigration Service Board in overseeing the recruitment and promotion of quality staff for paramilitary services under the Federal Ministry of Interior, as well as their dismissal and other disciplinary measures, is a task that must be performed optimally. We are glad to have you and your management team here, Madam Secretary, and hopefully you will have a wonderful interaction with the committee.
Gombe State government is engaging citizens in preparing its 2022 budget. The budget presentation, organized by Gombe State Ministry of Finance in collaboration with the Budget Planning and Development Partner Coordination Office, is aimed at receiving inputs from members of the public and reflecting them in the 2022 budget. Our correspondent Christopher Luca was there and now reports.
This is the public presentation of 2022 budget as Gombe State engages its citizens over where and what to spend on in the year 2022. Governor Ino Yahya says his administration's focus is constantly shaped by inputs from the citizens.
We shall work hard to see that we do not misapply the resources of the people for a selfish few. And that's why you see that all the projects we are doing, all the programs, and all the policies are aligned towards the majority of the people.
Despite economic downturn and debt servicing, Gombe State has kept its head above water in their under review.
For me, I've committed myself, I've dedicated myself, and I believe for a greater segment of these people on the side, we are committed, and we shall continue to work and deliver on the
Gombe State Commissioner of Finance says the 2022 budget, like the previous ones, is people-oriented and people-directed.
The people who are here today determine the projects that will be in the budget. And of course, people-centered, because it centers on the lives and touches on the heart of the people. Provision of infrastructure that will enhance their livelihoods, provision of healthcare facilities, provision of educational facilities, and in agriculture sector.
With the outgoing budget performing up to 68%, participants are confident of better performance in the 2022 budget.
The indicators submitted by the governor, the 68% achievement of the budget performance, is commendable, and I trust and I believe in what he said, because we'll be monitoring and being evaluating so far how they have gone. Despite financial challenges, the resource challenges they've been facing, despite all that, they could be able to achieve that 68. It's a very tremendous achievement.
I'm so happy, because by mid of October, attaining 68 percent is something commendable, and I'm sure it's not far from them involving the citizenry.
The government should borrow the money to complete Muhammadu Buhari Industrial Park. Government should borrow the money and also use it to engage our youth. Government should also borrow the money to do anything that will generate money, not for their unselfish and personal interests.
As this consultation procedure is adjudged to have all the trappings of constitutional democracy, it is hoped that the due diligence of the Inua administration would continue to help in addressing the myriad of developmental needs of Gombe State. Christopher Luka, Viewer Television News, Gombe.
The kidnapped lecturers of the University of Abuja and some of their family members have been released in the early hours of Friday, 5th November 2021. The Chairman Academic Staff Union of University of Abuja chapters, Comrade Kasim Umar, confirmed this to journalists in Abuja on Friday. Kasim did not say if the university have ever paid any ransom on the kidnapped staff and their family members, but said the free university lecturers on their way home to return to their families in the university campus. He recalled that the suspected bandits in the early hours of Tuesday invaded the University of Abuja staff quarters and kidnapped 4 lecturers and some of their children. The bandits were said to have stormed the university staff quarters in Giri and held lecturers hostage. Report says the kidnappers earlier requested for 300 million naira to secure the release of the abducted lecturers. When Newslive returns, federal government inaugurates subcommittees on white paper and review of parastatals agencies commissions. Bring you details of this and more right after the break. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to News Plus on Viewer Television. I am Charles Doke.
Hello and welcome to News Plus on Viewer Television. I am Joy Malik.
Hello and welcome to News Plus. I am John Matake.
Hello and welcome to News Plus. I am Ike Omatong.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is News Live, a recap of our top stories. Kidnapped lecturers of University of Abuja and some of their family members regains freedom. Federal High Court in Abuja bans the federal government from deducting $418 million from bank accounts of the 36 states of the Federation. Plus, European Commission warns of serious consequences for United Kingdom in Northern Ireland Brexit trade row. The federal government has lamented that its failure to implement the report of the Committee on the Restructuring and Rationalization of Federal Government Parastatal Agencies and Commissions, otherwise known as the Oronsaye Report, was costing the country so much. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, made the outcry during the inauguration of the subcommittees on Government White Paper and Review of Parastatal Agencies and Commissions that were created following the submission of the Oronsaye Report. Mustafa, who was represented at the inauguration by the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi Esan, noted that cost was escalating for every delay that the implementation of the Oronsaye Report suffers. The SGF said the country has for many years been struggling to make sure that at least 30% of its annual budget goes into capital projects. The committee to review the Oronsaye Report and white paper on restructuring and rationalization of federal government parastatal agencies and commission is to be headed by a former head of service, Goni Aji, while former head of service and Minister for Housing, Amel Pepple, is chair to a committee to review new agencies created after the submission of the above reports from 2014 to date. The two subcommittees with ranging terms of reference, including to study and analyze the findings and recommendations contained in the Oronsaye Report, as well as the ensuing white paper, and to determine the need for the existence or otherwise of the new agencies, commissions, parastatals in the light of the increasing cost of governance, removing superfluity in functions of agencies, will submit the reports for the consideration of government within 6 weeks.
Submitted its report on 16th April 2012. The report recommended that of the 541 statutory and non-statutory federal government parastatals, agencies and commissions, 263 statutory agencies should be reduced to 161. 38 agencies should be abolished, 52 agencies should be merged, and 14 should revert to departments in ministries. Subsequently, the white paper on the report was issued and published in March 2014 and was followed by the white paper of the Implementation Committee, which was inaugurated in May of that same year, 2041.
I want to give glory to God for making today possible, because the challenge we have been called upon to try and provide solutions for has been lingering for a long time. The timeline is very stringent, 6 weeks. We pray that God will give us the enablement. But we will do our best. We've all served this country, are still serving this country, and we know how important the outcome of these two subcommittees will be to the government, to governance, to our budget, because for long we have been talking about 30% for capital projects, 70% for overhead and all that, but I don't think we have been able to achieve that. But God being our helper, we'll do our utmost best to ensure that we produce reports and give advice that will enable government to take the best decision as far as it concerns the two committees.
Well, a federal high court in Abuja has stopped the federal government from executing its plan to deduct $418 million from the bank accounts of the 36 states of the Federation. Justice Iyan Ekwo gave the restraining order against the federal government following an expert application argued by the lawyers to the 36 states, Jibrin Okutepa and Ahmed Raji. While moving the application, Okutepa, who led the legal team of the states, told Justice Ekwo that the 36 states would be completely crippled if the federal government goes ahead to deduct the huge amounts from the bank accounts of the states. According to him, the federal government had revealed the plan to deduct the $418 million from the state account monthly as part of debts for contracts allegedly executed for the state. Okutepa, however, said that the 36 states attorneys general have read the purported judgment displayed by the federal government and found that the states were not parties to the court action, which resulted in the judgment debt. After listening to the arguments of the 36 states, Justice Ekwo ordered the federal government not to go ahead to make any deduction from the accounts of the states in respect of the purported court judgment until all issues relating to it were fully determined. The judgment thereafter fixed the matter for November 30 and ordered the plaintiff's lawyer to serve all processes on the defendants before adjourned dates. Also, the Federal High Court Abuja has fixed January 19, 2022 for hearing the suit filed by leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, IMN Sheikh Ibrahim El-Zakzaky, and his wife Zina against the Department of State Services, DSS, and Attorney General of the Federation. Justice Iyan Ekwo on Friday fixed the date to allow the defendants in the fundamental rights enforcement suits respond to allegations leveled against them, while El-Zakzaky and his wife are applicants in the separate suits. The DSS, DG, and AGF are first and second respondents, respectively, in the suits dated and filed on October 14 by the Council. Femi Falana, the IMN leader and wife, are demanding general and exemplary damages over the respondent's refusal to release his travel passport. Justice Ekwo, who said he was mindful to adjourn the case for the respondents to keep their house in order, fixed January 19, 2022 for hearing the suit. He also directed the applicants to ensure that hearing notices are issued to the respondents. The National Broadcasting Commission has warned broadcast stations against airing news content that would compromise the unity of the country as the Anambra elections hold on Saturday, November 6. This was contained in a statement titled Anambra Election, NBC warns against broadcasts that compromise the unity of Nigeria, signed by NBC Director General Balarabe Ilela tasked all broadcasters covering the governorship election to follow the electoral guidelines provided in the Nigerian Broadcasting Code. The statement went further to outline some of the laws which broadcasters are to follow, adding that election results should not be illegally projected on their platforms. The Commission mentioned that broadcasters who go against the provisions would undergo severe penalties. As the world marks 2021 International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, and NGO African Media Development Foundation (AMDF) calls on relevant authorities in Africa to ensure perpetrators of such crimes are brought to justice. In a statement signed by the